Okay, so there's the opening rhythm of Gimme 3 Steps, Lynyrd Skynyrd. We're gonna have these 7s here in the D and G string. We're gonna go to a 9 on the A string. So we're gonna have. So we kind of had 2 7s here in the A and D into that last 9, those 7s. Okay, so those last 2 maneuvers were like A and D string 7s to that 9, to those lower 7s. Then the second time we have those bigger 7s into the 9, into the open A. So we got. And then kind of the same thing with the A. We got the 2s here in the D and G. So here we had 2, 4 to the 2s. And then going back into the D, we can kind of have a 2 to 4 on the A and then an open D to get you back up here. So we got. So that was all just the same, and then we're gonna have A. So we have D, A 3 times, A, and then open to 2 on the big string into the D power chord. You can kind of also have the A bass note with that if you want. So the whole thing again would be 2, 3, and. Okay, then we're in the verse, and we got one of these typical honky-tonk kind of things. We got the power chord D. We're gonna go to that D string, 9th fret with the pinky. So we got. So the second one of the A is gonna go into the. Gotta go all the way to that 10 and back. Okay, so the verse again, 2, 3, 4. Here we're going to go to an E riff. We got open, then 3, 4, and then 2, 4 in the A string to the 2s from that A chord. Little bend on that 3 on the A string. Okay, and you could kind of go hit a higher A, so you can kind of slide that down. So it'd be. And then back to D. And then we got a G power chord. Okay, so G power chord, then chromatic down to the F sharp, to the F, to the E, so. Kind of hit the E again, then we got D. And then we have that A that goes up to the pinky, so. And we kind of just have those stabs on that D. Okay, then we'd be into like a solo break, which is the same type of verse stuff. Then we have a full verse. Now in this next verse, we're gonna have a fill on this E after the E fill we already had. Okay, so that was a 3, 4 on the A, 2 on the G, that A note, and a pull off, 3 to open with the extra A there. So this verse would be like. Okay, then the chorus is going to go. So it's like chick and then a chord on the upbeat. It's like 1 and 2 and 3, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. Then A, D, so we could have kind of a couple more of those. Then we're gonna have the open to 2, down to the D with that A bass on it. So it's like. Okay, now we're gonna get into the leads. I'm not gonna tab out this lead because it's basically the same type of stuff, just variations. So I'm gonna go over all these leads, but I want you guys to just kind of see how it's the same kind of riffs, and you could kind of improvise this a bit as well, you know. Okay, one of our main things in the soloing is we're gonna have this 10th fret 2nd string and the 9th fret 3rd string, and we're bending that up as a chord. So the pinky stays, of course, but the other one moves against it. So we have. Okay, so we have the 7s down here we'll use. So it's a series of bends there. And this is the 7 on the G and B strings. Going to that 9 on the D. Okay, so some tabs say, like, use the 9s like that. Sounds a little off to me. You can have the 7 and the 10 and bring the 9 in off of that. So it'll be. Okay, then we're gonna do the same type of thing on the 4 and 5. We'll have a little bend on that 3, go to the A. And then we'll have a little pickup. So 7, 9 on the D to the 7th fret of the G. So. Okay, so here we have the 9 and the 10 on the G and B. Sliding that down as an A chord. So once again on this solo we got. So here we have the bend, the little 10 down there underneath a couple times. Slide into the 5 on the D. That's our G. 5, 4, 3, 2. And then we're back to a bend. And then we go to the A. To the D. Okay, so that was that first solo in the beginning of the song. Now here's the next little solo we got. Okay, so that one kind of goes quick to that 4 and 5, so we got. And that's one of those things where it kind of sounds better to do. And then this one's gonna go. So see how it's the kind of thing where you can kind of make it up yourself. You just know where you're going. Here's your A riffs, here's your D riffs. Sometimes you go to the high note. And then you got your. Now we get into the chorus and we have that. We have a. So when it goes to the A, we have a little fill here. 4th fret G string. Bend it and back. 2, 4, 2. So it's like. Here we have a big thing. We have a double slide thing. So we have a, you can kind of do 2 7s, A and D strings, into that 9, into that 7 here. And you kind of hit that chord if you want to. We're going to take the ring finger, 10, 9 to 7. So that was very similar to the last one we did there, where it kind of gets quick into the bends, you know. Back to this. And then we have the E riff. Okay, so that went to the G note, the 10th fret of the A there, since we're in that area. And that slid into 11 on the D, 9, 11, 9 on the G. And then we're going to end with. Okay, so we just went to the bigger set of strings. So okay, so da 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 da. We're gonna have that same fill on the chorus. Okay, then we'll get into the last solo here. Okay, so we get into like a 3/4 to 2 down here in the G. So we got. Okay, so we got like a. Kind of just bending that 4 up and down a little bit with the 2 and stuff. And then we get back up here. And then it kind of keeps going on with the same stuff for the outro. So we get. Okay, by then it'd be faded out. So like I say, your solo thing, you got that 9 and 10. I see how you can hit it a variety of times and spacings and timings and stuff. Okay, so I just kind of made one up doing all that same stuff right there. So you could do the same type of thing. Okay, so that's the intro of I Ain't the One, Lynyrd Skynyrd. We start out with this little slight bend on the 3 of the A string with a 2 down here in the G string. We're muting the one in between, so we got. And then we pause for an 8th note of the next measure. We're gonna go. And then we repeat this little phrase. We got the octave of the A, and it's the 2 over here in the G string. It's octave. We're gonna go 3 to 4 in the A, and then back to that octave thing. And that's a riff we're gonna do 3 times. So it's like rest. Okay, so we did it 3 times, then we're back to this rest. 3 more times. And then D to E power chords here, 5th to 7th off the A string. And then there's a little lead that comes in, and we have a rhythm here that goes like this. So A power chord, and then A bass note, 3 to 4 in the A, back to the power chord. So it's. We hit the C power chord twice, then we go. Just 1 G power chord, then C, C. And then we get into these chords, 7s on the D and G, to 5s, 1 extra 5s, and then a 7s to 5s on the A and D strings. So we got. Okay, so the whole beginning we got. verse starts. Okay, so the verse is gonna be kind of the same stuff, except for instead of 2 G's, we're gonna go a couple pull-offs there. So it's gonna go. Kind of hit a 1-note G there instead of the chord all the time. Give it a little bend kind of thing. So we got. Got those 7s and 5s again. So here we come up to the D chord, 10th fret, big strings here, power chord. So we kind of hit the chord or the bass note a few extra times. So you can go kind of bum, ba-da, and then hammer, hammer, 10 to 12 in the 2 big strings. So we got. So 10s, 9s, and then you can go to the 12s or the 7s. 7s on the D, G, or 12s on the A and D. So we got. So this one goes dum da da hammer hammer da 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 dum to those bigger 12s. 10s to 12s on those lower ones. Okay, so the verse we got. Back to the A. Now we're to the E. We got. Okay, so that's big E string. Hit it once and then hit it twice. Pull off 5 to 2 on the A string and then followed by the E again. So. And then a 4 to 2 pull off. Slight bend kind of on that 3, 4, 2, 4. So it's. So this one just has the 4 to 2 without the hammer on in there. Third one's gonna be the same as the first. Now this fourth one's gonna go. We'll go to the open E after that 4-2. Right into the D to C power chords. Okay, and then we got a little quick lead. We're back into another verse and chorus and stuff like that. So let's take a look at the lead that happens. So we're going to slide into that 11. And then we're going to go to the 12 on the second string. That was on the G string. And then we're going to go. So bending that 12 up and down, pull off to the 10. Okay, back to the 10. And then we're bending the little 12 up. So we go up and down. And then we go up and down in that 12. So we got. Bending the 20 on the second string. And then we go 20, 17 on the second. Bend the 19 on the G. Down, then 17, 19, 19 on the D. So we got. Okay, back into another verse. You got the same kind of changes and stuff going on. Then we have a breakdown getting us into the main solo. We got. Okay, so this is the octave thing. All we're doing is the A bass and the other A here on the G string, second fret. But we have some pull-offs that make it interesting. Okay, so it's always just. Here we have a bass after that pull-off. And then you have like a. Some pull-offs. So it's. End of this we end up going. That's Okay, then that does it again, and then the lead starts. So it's. And then the lead's like. Okay, so we have 19 on the D and 17 on the G, and it's kind of like a. Okay, so it's kind of, you have that lower and higher note kind of working together. Now we're going to go to this 14 bar, the D and G strings. We're going to have a pull off in the 17, 14. We got like 4 of those, and we got bend in that 17 on the G, big bend, and then. So we got the 17, up and down, 14, 14. Okay, so we got. Now here we bent into the 14, 14. So just a variety of weird different kind of bends, you know. So here we had a big bend, regular one, and we're always having that 14 as the low note. So 14, 14, 14, 15, 17, 14. So we got. Okay, so it's just a variety of bends on that 17th fret. 2 bends, and then we start getting a big bend. We got like 3 sets of the 17 and 15. Then 20 we're gonna bend. So 20, 17, we're gonna bend this 19. Back into the 17, 20. Do that twice. Then we go up and down. 17 to the lower 19. Okay, so we got this 19, 19, 19, 17, 19, 17. A little bit of a bend on that lower 19. Kind of slide that down. Now we're getting into this E shape. We're going to slide into the 13 on the G string, and then we're going to get in this bar in these 12s here. Have a pull off down here, 15, 12, the lower 12. So here we have like a regular bend and then a little bend. 12, 12, 12. Bend that second string, 15. So we got. And then we have. So 12, 15, bend. 12, 15. Up and down to the 12, 14, 14. Down, bump, bend, and bend, and bend. So here we have a little quick slide into the 14 on the D. Okay, so just look at it slow. 14, 14. 12, 14, 12. Now here we have a 14 and 12, kind of a unison. Little 12, 15, bend here. More of these same kind of riffs, you know. So bow da dee doo da dee down. Then we come up here to the 19. Then we come to the 19. We got. So 2 of these, bend 19, 17, 20 then. Up and down. Down to that lower note, so. So 19, 17, 19, 17. Quick one down to that 15. That's 17. So it ends up being. like a into the 7, 5, 7, 7. Kind of bend that 5. So it's 3, 4. And then we got, so unison bend, 17 on the second, 19 on the third. 2 of those, 17 on the G. Bend that 20 on the second string. Come on down. And then you got, it's kind of a slide up, down, and then a 8th fret, second string. Bend it again to the 5, 7, 5, 7, 5. Okay, then at the end of the song, we got this breakdown where it's like, so it kind of combines like the intro and that kind of middle break because it has that kind of thing. So it's, and then the end is gonna have these chords: D to C, A to G, and then you're back to A. I might do it way up here. Okay, so that's the beginning of What's Your Name by LYNYRD SKYNYRD. We're gonna start out with the C power chord here. We got 5th string, 3 and 5 on the D string. We got, so first we hit the C, and then we have C sharp into D power chords here. So we're gonna go. Then we got one of those little honky tonk things. Get your pinky over here in the D string, 9th fret. So we got. Now that was the 2 middle strings, the D and G strings. Use your ring finger. Slide 10s to 9s. First finger gets those 7s. So all together we got. Now we're gonna have these 7s to the 9 on the A string and back to those 7s. Okay, so all together we got. Go big open E to the 2 to the power chord on the 3, that G power chord. So we got. And then we have this little riff. So that's G string, open, and then 2 open on the D. Back to the G, and then flip these around, open to 2, and then the bottom 2 strings, 3rd fret. So we got. Okay. So here we have the 2s, 5s to 4s, back to the 2s, 3 to 4 on the A string, and we're into the verse on that A chord there. So the whole intro, 1, 2. Have that same kind of honky tonk thing on this A, so it's like, and it comes in actually before the measure, so it's like an upbeat on the and of the 4 of the previous measure, so it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we're doing our A honky tonk, going to the G over here honky tonk. Then we come back in, you can kind of hammer this. You can kind of have the 2 down here, or 2 of these 2s. Hammer that 3 to 4 in the A string. Then we'll have a little riff. Bum, 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 bum. From the top. 1, 2. Okay, so that was hammer. 2 on the G. 4, 2. 2, back to that 3, 4. Okay, so from the verse, 1, 2, 3, 4. went to the E power chord, and then we could go. There's a little riff in there. It kind of has with some upbeats on some chords there. So you could do like the 1 and open on the G and E strings, 2s, 3s, 4s, or you could come over here and hit the 6 and 5 on the D and B strings, to the 7s, 8s, and 9s. So once again, from the verse, 3, 4. Go to G, A, now E, so at that point we did a couple D's back to a couple G's. E, okay, when we get into the chorus, we're going to have a C, C sharp, D power chords. So from coming out of that last A to E to A, we got. Now this new measure is going to go bum da dee dum, and it's going to wait till the last like and for and for and, because you know they're always hitting those ands before the new measures and stuff. So we got. So that's that same kind of maneuver we had from the beginning. So we got. Okay, so we just keep rocking on that G until it's time to pop in those new ones here. So we got. Okay, so all that happened there is we hit a G power chord on the 10th fret up here of the A string. And then we had that typical kind of A chord set up for the next verse. Okay, so the next verse is gonna be the same type of stuff. G. E. G. D to G. A. E. Back to A. Chorus. So we got a double chorus up in there. So after you've held that G for a little while, you got. Into a chorus again. So let's take a look at that lead. We're going to slide into the 16th fret of the A string. And this is like the A major pentatonic scale mostly. So we got 16 on the A, 14, 16 on the D, 14 over here on the G. So we got 16, 14, 16, 14. And then we're going to hit this chord here. So we're bending the 16 of the G with the 17 on the B string underneath it. So it's. Got two bends of that with some vibrato. So we're doing that chord with the bend, and then we're hitting the two 17s. So I got the pinky getting both of those 17s down there. So we got 3 sets of that with the chord with the high note up top. And then we're gonna go. So we got to pull off 16 to 14 on the G to 16 on the D. So we got. So hammer on 4 to 16 and some more 16s. So we got. So it's kind of similar riffs. And there's always like kind of one at the very end before the new phrase, you know, like at the last 16th note of that beat. So it's. Now we're gonna have a 14 and a 16 bend. And that was 14, 16 on the D, down to this one and back. Kind of slide that one down. So hammer, G string, pull off there. So, and then we're gonna hit that G string quickly before we go. So we got a 16 on the A string going down to 14 and then 12. And then a pull off, big 14, back to this 12. And it's like bound but down with a little slide. So we got. Okay, then we're gonna go. So hammer, big string, 2 12s there. Pull off, back to the big string. 2 12s with a slide. So you could kind of hit a 12 or just kind of slide into the 16. Okay, so we get into a series of where we're hammering on the D string and then hitting the G string note underneath it after that. So kind of holding that 14. And then you got that next set. One more of those, then we start getting into the 6 times repeating this phrase. And then we're back to kind of a thing from before. Then our last thing is, so that was middle strings, 14s, hammering into the 16 of the D string. Back to the lower chord. Then we have a 14 and 15 hammered into the 16 of the G. And then we're gonna do that 16 and 17 with the bend. So the whole solo will be. And then we're back into the chorus. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we set up the last verse the same way. We had that G chord down. And then that kind of A riff kind of stuff. So we got last verse, 3, 4. Now we're gonna have a double chorus. at the end, after we've done that G, as soon as you get the boom, 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 we're gonna go. So that's the open strings, in the middle, the D and G. Threes, the twos, the opens. Then a 1 to 2 on the A string. Back to those 2 middle strings open, so it's. Use the G bass also with that last one. Alright, what's your name? Lynyrd Skynyrd, great tune. Got tabs for this. We'll talk to you all soon. Thanks a lot. All right, this is Sweet Home Alabama by Lynyrd Skynyrd. We're going to start out with this intro. Okay, so what we got there is the D bass note first, and then second to third string. We got the C bass here and the 3 and open down here, and then the G bass. So the chord down there, and then we're kind of not hitting that bottom E string yet. So, and you can kind of hit this D string on the way down, and he kind of has like a chuk-chung, so you could think of it as like a 3-0-3 or like a 3 and a muted and a 3. So he kind of has that chuk-chung in there, so it's like. Now this first riff is going to go. So it's O2 and then O and the D. Pull off to the 2 down here and then pull off the 2 O and the G. So a variety of ways you could use your fingers on that. I think that's how I used to do it the most, was like hammer the first one and then do the pull off on that one so you could reach that finger there. Then you got a O2, open, open. Okay, now you got the other guitar is going to come in with. So, you got the 7 on the G. Kind of slides back, 9, 7, and back. And then you got. So that's open to 2 open to the D, and then 4 to open to the D. Bend that 5 up a whole step. And if you were waiting to do the other part, you like dum dum chicum ba dum dum chicum ba dum dum chum. Okay, then we're into just chords on this instead of single notes. So the first one of those might be another repeat of that. So listen for that, but later it kind of settles into a more easy thing. Now we have this riff up here, 7, 8, 9. So what that is like part of a D chord, and you're going 7, 8, 9 into the 3 of the D, into that D chord there. You're gonna hit that bang, 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 slide this down, and that's part of a C chord down there. And then 1, 2. So it's 1, 2 on the A, D string, G string, G string again, G bass. Do it again. Then you have a. So that was a little open 2 on the A to the D. Then we're in the next verse. Now we're going in the chorus. So this one, O2, D, G, pull off 2 to O on the D, O to 2 on the A there. You're gonna slide that into that 5th fret. We're gonna have a power chord here on this D, so it's. You gotta hit that 9th fret on the D string with that little power chord thing with the pinky there. We got. So this one goes boom, boom, chicka, boom, and then O2, O2, O3. So that was. Now we go. Ends up being 5 sets of that. It seems like triplets, but it's really like 16th notes, and so they start getting offset around the beat there, so it's kind of tricky. And then we slide the 3 to the 5 to get into the chords again. First part. Then we go F, C, and that starts the solo. Bar thing at the end there. So that solo is 15th fret, small string, bend it down, and then go. That's part of your D shape there. 14, 15, 14, back to that 15. So that's 10 to 8, and then 11, 10, 8. So it's. So back to the 10 to the 9. So. 8, 10, 9, bend the 10, so we got. So here we have 7 and 9 on the G, 8, 10, 8, bend the 10. So this one has a chromatic and also hits this 7 a little early. And then we got. Wow, the whammy bar. So once again, we got. Okay, then we're in verse. And this one has an FC. Has that boo-hoo. Going in the chorus. That's where your solo starts right there. So let's look at a couple other things. Let's look at this Gary Rossington riff. So when we get into a verse, we got. But you got a guitar behind that going. Okay, so that waits till after the D, and it goes open to 3, the bottom 2 strings, the little 2 strings. So it's like, and then 3, open, 3, and then 3 to 3, and then we're gonna slide that 3 into 5, little 3, slide that back. And supposedly this tune came from Gary Rossington messing with this riff at rehearsal, and Ed King got there and he put the D, C, and G chords behind it. And then he came up, like he supposedly dreamed his whole guitar solo, and Al Cooper fought him on it and everything. But we'll get into that guitar solo in the next lesson. But we're going to keep on with this. This is the Gary Rossington part again. 3, 4. Okay, and let's look at this riff up here one more time. We got. Okay, let's run one more verse. 3, 4. Into the chorus. Okay, so that's basically how it rolls out on that studio recording. Like say after the solo, you got. And then he's got this tricky harmonic thing. So that thing was. So D string 12, bend the 14 on the G, pull off to the 12, and we got. So that's 10 on the B. 10, 11, hammer on, 12, 12, and then pull off 12 to 10, and then harmonics, 7th fret of the D string, 12th fret of the B string, 7th fret of the D string, 5th fret of the G string. So that was part 1 of Sweet Home Alabama. The next lesson will have the whole middle guitar solo by Ed King. Thanks for watching. Talk to y'all soon. All right, this is Sweet Home Alabama, the main guitar solo by Ed King. We're coming out of the chorus. We got. And then we have. So we have like a O to 2, O to 4, back to 2, and then we start bending. So we got. We're gonna pull that off. 2 on the D, back to those Gs. We're gonna slide into the 9 with our middle. So we got. And he'll be hitting some pinch harmonics every now and again on this. So once again, we got 2, 3, 4. Sometimes I would slide into that note. So this is a 8, 9, 8. Real wide bend, like 1 3/4 bend, they say on the tab. Then a regular bend on the 10. 8, 9, 8. Slide the 9 back to 7. So a couple pinch harmonics in there. And then 7, 9 on the D. 9, 7 here. So 2, 3, 4. So we're sliding into this 14 on the D. We get that one pull off. This is going to be a series of pull offs, just like that one. We're going to jump to the 17th fret. We're going to do the 17 twice, and it always goes to that 14 and back to the 12. So it's like. Then we're gonna get into 6 times of the 16th fret. Two of the 14s, and then 3 of the 17s. So it's really weird. 1 of the 14s, and then 2 of the 17s, and then 6 of the 16s. And then 2 of the 14s, 3 of the 17s. And then we get into the next riff after that. So I'm gonna try the whole thing. 3, 4. So after that series of 17s, we're gonna end with a dee-da-doo-da-doo. Then we have a 13-14 on the A to the G12, 14-12 and back. So each time you got little note back, little note back. And then we have a 12 to 15. We settle in on this 15. So we get into a bunch of these 15s. Eventually we have a 15 to a 13 with a little bend. You got that 12 and 15, kind of like a bending to the same note. Now this riff is going to go 12, 15, 12, 15, 12. So 14, 12 in the D. So that's a quick slide. 14, 12, 10. So let's review again. We got and it seems like he kind of gets a pinch harmonic on one of those, so you might try to pick that bend downwards. So we got. Okay, so we got all that end part we still got to do. So we're going to start on this one again. We got. So you got. So just got to take it one note at a time. And I would check out the Songster tab. There's tons of tabs on this one, though, that you can find. I'm not going to write all these out, you know, but I got this out of the Songster tab. I think it's pretty accurate. Plus, Songster has those, like, you can hear all the different parts. It has all those different guitar parts. So it's really cool to see the different people and what they're doing and see the layers of things going on in the guitars. So that's a bend on the 14. 2 pull-offs. Slide in that new position. So we had. Okay, so one more time from the. 15 twice. Take that down. 14, 12 to that 12 right there. And then you got. And then you got. And you got some whammy bar things going on in that stuff. Okay, so that was the Sweet Home Alabama solo. We got one other thing in there. We got. So we're going to go into the 9. We have 8 and back. One of those little riffs there. And then we're going to bend the 8. Down to the 8. And then 7, 7, 7. Back to the 7. So one more time through the solo. All right, Sweet Home Alabama, Ed King, Gary Rossington, Alan Collins, great guitar players, great stuff. Talk to you all soon.